What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Today I want to talk about an important topic that was brought up on King Ganda's channel. He was talking to the two lovely ladies from Uganda. First of all, I just want to say both of those ladies, first of all three of those ladies on the show, magnificent, okay? Magnificent. They are all intelligent and beautiful. They are the definition of beauty and intelligence. I'm telling you. All three of them. All three of them. Ugandan women are beautiful. Oh my God. What? Oh my God. But anyway, enough. And they're intelligent. Not just their beauty, but their intelligence that complements their beauty. Oh God. But anyway. So, it was a great show, but one thing that they were talking about, they said it wasn't the main part of the conversation, but it was a big enough part to get me to do this video, where they were saying when you come, I forgot at what point, but they said basically when you come to Africa, come by yourself, or they were encouraging their particular diaspora ethnic group to, when they travel, just travel by yourself, or do something as an individual. Don't go in a group, right? And I've heard other people say it, like African Americans coming to Africa, don't go in a group of Africans, like an enclave, because that could cause problems. Because if you a bunch of African Americans in like a town, like an African American town, you're gonna bring a lot of African American drama with you to whatever town you are in Africa, right? Wherever you are. And when you bring the African American drama with you, you'll bring a lot of issues, a lot of attitudes, and it can cause a lot of conflict, right? Because the reason why you went to Africa for a lot of us is not just to find financial success, but to find peace, emotional peace, right? And relaxation, and a communal setting, a different setting. And I went to think about that, and if you really look at the scope of YouTube, right? The scope of where we can see black people on overseas, whether on an individual basis or whether on a group basis, who is succeeding and what form of expat seems to be the best, right? And I would say going solo dolo, or not solo, maybe not just yourself, but going with the intent to integrate with the community, instead of making a separate African American community within an African community. That, I think, is probably the best and most sustainable and respectful form of expatting, compared to going over there and making an African American town to where you, as an group of African Americans or African diasporas, purposely separate yourselves from the community, to operate. Because just like when we see Chinatown, when we talk about Chinatown, even America, we like, right? There's a little smugness to it, right? And we give a little smugness to even other groups that collect themselves, to protect themselves in the society. We give it a little, you want to be on your own, right? Without, some of us don't understand why they have to do that. And in the Western world, you got to do that because of the nature of how America is built, right? It's such a volatile living situation in America. You have to gang up, right, just to survive. But on the continent, you don't have to do that, because you're not going to run into such aggressive groups of people. You're not going to run into a system that's that so aggressive to which you have to do that. Africa is a place where you actually can, you can kind of like do your own thing as an individual or as a small group, and succeed, right? And if you look at the examples on YouTube, you got Mark Meets Africa, right? First of all, let me just say about Mark Meets Africa. Mark Meets Africa, that guy is an excellent example of a young black man and black excellence on the continent. He's an excellent example of an African American. He is that guy, because, and he's younger than the other pipsqueak, right? So that's why I don't give excuses for ages. When you go over there and you know how to act, have some sense, have respect, follow, understand rules, social norms, and things like that. Don't tell me a 24-year-old can't do it when a 19, 17, 20-year-old boy can do it at the highest level. Mark Meets Africa is an excellent example of a young African-American over there doing everything, doing it the right way, right? With respect, understanding, nuance, a view of the bigger picture, that guy is a great ambassador and representative of African Americans on the continent, right? Right? And there are others like him, you know, young ones like him. But I just wanted to highlight Mark Meets Africa is just completely he's excellent, right? So, you know, and myself, I decided to go that route too, as an African American, as an individual, to blend in with the community. Just kind of like, instead of like needing to separate myself, I just blend in, because as African Americans, and especially in West Africa, you can just blend in. You can be a part of the community. You can be one with the community, you know, earning it through merit, earning it through showing that you want to be a part of the community, earning it, you know, by being overall just a good person and not a piece of shit, right? They give you an opportunity to earn it. And when you earn it, it's yours, right? Like, I got some people who, like, detractors of mine, who like to make fun of me and my ascension to a chief. They think it's a joke. They think it's like some sort of honorary chief or some token. Let's make him a chief because he's an African American who visited. No, you know, there are cases at which they may be kind of doing something for that, for advertisement purposes. But no, I'm like, for me, you know, in my case, I'm a real chief. I'm not an honorary chief. Like, that's another thing. We as African Americans, we have to start respecting our culture, respecting our African culture, and respecting the rank structures and the prestige and the statuses of our African counterparts, brothers and sisters. So in Nigeria, I'm a real chief. They take that seriously. It's no joke, right? It's like a real position. It's not for fake. It's not for fun. It's not a token. It's not a token symbol. You understand? It's real, right? And I take my status as chief seriously, very, very, very seriously, just like I would any job, any title that the Western world can give me, right? But I find that if you go as an individual, right, you are able to move about seamlessly, because you may be from the Western world, but if you have the right mentality, attitude, you're dealing with people who don't know you, and they get to know you, right? So you get a second chance of making a first impression somewhere else, and you get to be the person you really want to be without having the influences of other, you know, groups of Americans that don't have the same interests or mission as you, right? So you're not going to have any American conflict there. But at the same time, I feel like there are cases in which there should be some sort of enclave of places for African Americans to conglomerate with each other, to fellowship with each other on the continent, because we still need networks with each other, right? We still need to network with each other, but we don't necessarily need to be doing the same thing with each other, because like I said, we all got different goals and motives, and how we operate as Americans over there could taint what we're trying to do, you know, causing drama and whatnot. You know, it's pros and cons to both, you know. And if you listen to Mark Meets Africa, he'll explain a lot of what happens when you try to overhelp, when you try to be, because he reminds me of myself. Mark Meets Africa reminds me of myself, by the way, his attitude and how he thinks about it. And he truly does remind me of a younger version of myself, as far as his intelligence and how he thinks about, you know, what he's doing over there, right? And his intentions for being over there, right? And he has to sift through, as a young man, he has to sift through all these dubious individuals that say they want to be a part of the community, that say they want to, you know, be a part of the mission, that say, but then come to find out they're really just trying to latch on to him. They're really just trying to, you know, suck his energy away. You know, they want him to be their hero. And the thing is, we can't be your hero. We can be your guide. We can be a partner, but we can't be your heroes, right? Because that's a lot of energy that we would have to use to facilitate you, and that's taken away from the mission at hand, right? So I think that going as individuals is probably the best sustainable way, because that way as individuals, we learn the culture, we learn the nuance of the culture, we also learn how to interact and how things work in the culture, and we can responsibly relay that to the people we do business with. So people can come to wherever country we pick, come responsibly and come correctly, right? And you can teach those who you interact with on an individual basis to act correctly, or to be able to move about correctly, you know. And then you can let some of that African culture seep into them on an individual basis, you know, instead of just trying to like do a big convert of hundreds of African Americans who have absolutely no idea how things work. You know, it could be difficult. So I think I think what those sisters said on the King Ghana channel is right. Even as Ugandans, they have their own issues in Uganda that they feel like they need to leave the country to go explore the world. Just like African Americans, we like to get our passports and go explore the world. Why wouldn't any other African person on the continent want to explore the world and leave their country? We, as African Americans, feel like our country ain't shit and we need to go find opportunity in other places sometimes. So why wouldn't an African in their own respective countries feel like their country ain't shit and they need to go explore and see options, you know, around the world, right? And as these young ladies were explaining on King Ghana's channel, right? And so we shouldn't be so naive to be like, oh, you know, you're fleeing for your country, everything must be horrible. Well, we want to flee from our country too, right? White people want to flee. We all want to flee from the status quo that we don't feel like is going to benefit us. If we're going to feel like we're stagnant, right? We all want to. There's a whole world out there, and we as human beings have the right to go explore that world and see if there's something better for us out there. And continental Africans are starting to do that now from every walks of life. So we're going to encounter those very same people that want to leave their country that we're trying to get to because we see opportunity there when they see opportunity where we're at, right? And it's all about leveraging your abilities, leveraging, you know, what you have somewhere else to benefit you and your community as a whole. And it will all of it will benefit us, you know, ultimately. And one thing I know that individuals do, right? And if you listen to one of these ladies on the show, there's one lady, she was in South Africa, Uganda, United Arab Emirates. She was all over the place. And people say she picks up accents, right? And you can hear it, right? She's very diverse in the way she speaks. And I'm telling you, African Americans, I myself, we tend to do that, but we don't really talk about it. Nobody's ever did a video on this. Y'all know how Caribbeans and Africans, they come to America, and just so African Americans, when they around us, they start to speak in our English dialect simply so that we can understand them better and so they can communicate with us effectively better, you know. And that's what people do when they come to America. They have their American accent, but then either when they get pissed off, excited, their natural accent comes out, right? You know, they can go back and forth, right? Well, African Americans do the same thing when we go to Africa, right? Or the Caribbean or any place, especially on an individual basis, somebody who really travels and not just, you know, somebody who really out there traveling and really communicating, not in a bubble of the tourist trap, but really out there with the real people. You develop an accent because you want to communicate with the people better. I find myself in every country I go developing a natural accent over time to better effectively talk to the people. And it works. It works. And then, you know, and then when I come back here, I'm like, man, am I being, you know, sometimes I question myself, like, am I being fake? Like, I'm sitting here with I got a full-blown, you know, developing Nigerian accent here. You know, when I'm in Trinidad, I got a full-blown Caribbean accent here. You know, I'm really doing this, like, for real, like, deep. Because when I go, I try to blend in all the way. And, you know, I always feel some kind of way with it, but I just natural. I don't do it on purpose. I naturally just start talking like the people. Like, when I go to Nigeria, you know, my main thing is I'm trying to get into talking Pidgin. Because they always say you should try to just learn Pidgin. Don't bother learning the language. Just learn Pidgin. You can get along with most people. So Pidgin is very similar to African American vernacular, the old version, the southern version of, you know, when we had our own almost language over here. Tut, I think it's called Tut or something like that. Like Tut, I could be wrong. But we had our own version of Pidgin language that's very similar. The Creoles and ones down south, the southern African Americans, if they were to talk Pidgin with the Nigerians, they're probably, it sounds almost similar. I'm sure some words are different, but the accent, everything, the way it flows sounds similar. It's kind of easy to pick up. So I started to do that and talk with their accent, with their ways and stuff. And sometimes it come out in my videos when I'm talking and the Nigerians pick it up when they hear it, you know, and I'm like, that's something that you do on an individual basis. And I think it's cool because we're doing the same thing that they do when they come here, right? So I do that. I have a whole Nigerian accent. I got a whole Trinidadian accent that I will not disrespect neither one of the countries and pretend and fake to do it for entertainment value. But when I'm in the environment in which I need to use it, I do it, right? I do. It just comes out naturally. I only let it come out naturally. I don't like to fake and do fake accents just to entertain people or whatever. It's like a utility, you know. But I think individual is better. But we're probably going to need a hybrid because us individuals making these individual connections, which is the most important, in order for us to help our diasporas who do need some sort of structure or guidance, we got to, you know, making a facility or a place where we can come together as individuals, but as a collective over there to help each other is a good thing, but it should be measured. You know, we shouldn't have to just limit ourselves to just being in a bubble of us. Because in Africa, you don't have to do that. In Africa, you will be a part of a community no matter what, right? And as big and vast as the continent is, the way we are trickling it into Africa, at some point, the ones that's going over there now as first generation expats, when they start have children, and about a second and third generation, they're going to be 100% integrated. They're just gonna, their grandparents, their grandkids just be like, oh yeah, my grandma, my grandfather came from America way back in one of those. She was one of the ones, the Africans that was over there. It's gonna be just like that. That's what's gonna happen. We're gonna blend right in there. No matter what we do, we will blend into the collective. It's going to happen. But trust and believe, the legacy of African Americans will never go away, but we will blend in. The idea of African Americans, as we think of it, we become a legendary group, just like we talk about the homie warriors, or we talk about the Oyo Empire and their great, kingdom. When we talk about we talk about the Benins and the Nanak. And when we talk about these great times in African history where we had these groups of people that did these amazing things, that's what African Americans are gonna become at some point. It's just what it is. It's the way things work. There ain't nothing we can do about it, to be honest. But yeah, I think that going as an individual basis is a more sustainable, a better, more sustainable way of doing it. It makes it so we can blend in evenly and we can get all our individual things done better. But I do think that we should have points of contact at which we can network with our brethren over there to help facilitate and connect them with the networks that we have, if they're worth it. Because you don't want to ruin your reputation in your community by bringing a dubious African American or African diasporan who's going to ruin your reputation, because reputation means something over there. You know what I'm saying? So you doing it as an individual basis gives you an opportunity to curate and manage your own reputation, and that's very important when doing business over there. But anyway, hope you understood what I said. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section. That's all I got to say. It's Afro Think Tank, learn some Tito. I'm out.